what brings us today here in this presentation today. Why did you gather journalists and researchers?
Because we're here because there's a community of people in Nairobi that's interested in how research can become comprehensible, first to journalists, and then journalists can convey that information to the public, and hopefully the research, which has findings, can actually have those findings show up in policies. So, for example, one thing I referred to was some research that was very obscure pointed out some of the challenges of encroachment on wildlife preserves in the Masai Mara. And it was a very technical article, but when it can be translated in a way that journalists can understand and that they can understand it to convey to the public, you then can get the attention of policymakers. So that's what we're excited about, is working with researchers who are experts but don't know how to communicate very effectively with the public, and either training the researchers to do that, which they can be trained to do, or investing in the communication skills of people who work with researchers to help them get information out.
So are you saying that a lot of research work is not being reported about?
Absolutely. Most research, there's all sorts of studies that show that 99% of research that's done just dies. In some journal you never heard of. And so and I'm not saying every piece of research should be publicly exciting, but some are really important, and they affect our health, they affect our education, they affect our quality of life, they affect our environment, and we need to know what people are learning. And if it sits on a shelf or runs in some journal that nobody knows and nothing happens, that's not okay. So it's important that the media be informed, and that in a way that they can understand. That you didn't sign up to be a journalist to read 100-page technical papers. So to put things in a frame that journalists can understand, and then go from there to hope that the information can get out to the public.
Does this apply to African research?
Absolutely. So there is now a malaria vaccine that is supported in Africa that wasn't even known before. There is a lot of work in agricultural research that's very exciting, that's happening to feed people who were not using new technologies to do that. I've just told you about a wildlife study around that. There's work being done around getting healthcare to people in rural areas that wasn't known before, and research is showing how that can be done as well. There is a ton of research in Africa, and African-led research, which is exciting. It's not research from anywhere else. It's African researchers who are doing terrific research, but we just have to get the African people to understand, and in some cases, donor countries to support what's happening.
Can you tell me about this kind of research, and when you look at how it is researched, you could share with us some of the issues, especially some researchers were saying they fear journalists.
Well, I would say journalists have an obligation to be humble and ask good questions and make sure that they're clear on the answers, and not just to assume something exciting that's going to get a headline. But the people being interviewed need to understand how journalists think and what journalists are looking for, and how to speak in a way that journalists can understand, but also that convey what they want said. And for people who are experts and are scared of journalists, they need to learn how to communicate in language journalists understand that works for them. Journalists, at the same time, should not assume that a story is the greatest story ever, every time. Most research is not dramatic in changing the world in and of itself. There's usually some nuance, it's usually incomplete, and it's a matter of the journalist and the researcher understanding each other.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Dr. Burness.
Thanks.
Mr. Burness?
And Mr. Burness. Okay?
Okay, thank you.